Hi, and welcome to another episode of Just Off College Avenue. My name is Chelsea, the program manager here at UVA Wise, and today we're going to talk to Jess Mullins, who is an alum of UVA Wise. So, please welcome Jess. Yay!
Thank you so much for having me.
So, to start off, Jess, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and anything that you think would be important for us to know about you as we start the episode.
Okay, what's most important to know about me? I'm going to keep that one in mind. But I am originally from Southeast Kentucky, so very, very nearby. And when I was looking for like an institution of higher education, was able to just pop over the hill. Became here. I graduated in 2017. I studied theater and communications, and also I minored in Spanish. I'm still a very active community arts practitioner. I also do a lot of community organizing, a little bit of cultural organizing, leaning into that a little bit more in the coming years. And I got really lucky because I ended up in an incredible cohort for the theater programs. And then I also just, for my day job, I work for Appalachia Funders Network, which is a member-led organization of folks who invest in the region or are funders based in the region doing work on the ground. I really used to want to leave the region so badly, in particular before I came to UVA Wise and was really able to reconcile my identities. But now I always say that if I'm leaving Appalachia, it's going to have to be in a pine box because I'm so committed to this place and to bettering it. So, yeah. That's what's most important to know about me, I think.
I do know that you are very invested in the region, just based on the work that I have seen you do over the years and the organizations that you have been involved with. You did touch a little bit on the Appalachia Funders Network where you work right now. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that group does, and then more specifically, what does your role as a programs and learning manager entail?
Yeah, so Appalachia Funders Network is a 15-year-old, this is our 15th year member organization. So basically we have 4 staff people, and then we have between 75 to 80 members. And like I said, it's funders who are based in the region, so both community foundations, private foundations. We even have some banking institutions and some CDFIs, which are community development financial institutions, who are, again, based in the region or are based outside of the region, making targeted investments into the region. One thing that my boss used to say, and something that I've kind of centered myself on since hearing them articulate this, was that, I said I have a community organizing background. That's grassroots, that's boots on the ground, that's going door to door knocking, that's trying to get people in your community up and moving. What we do at Appalachia Funders Network is, instead of organizing our community members on the ground, we are organizing the money to make sure it gets to those community organizations and communities on the ground. We really work hard to try to build a shared analysis. That's a lot of what my job entails with programs and learning, is creating learning opportunities, learning journeys around that shared analysis. And when I say shared analysis, our mission is to accelerate a just transition in Central Appalachia, what role philanthropy and funders play in that acceleration of a just transition, how the money flows to ensure that we're able in our communities to transition away from the mono economy, which is extractive, we know, into something where all of our communities, all of our people can flourish, and also the environment and ecology can be cared for as well. I would also say that my educational background in theater comes into play a lot in my current role, because right now, actively, I'm holding and supporting a project around narrative change in Appalachia, and that could be the way that Appalachians are perceived from outside stakeholders and actors, or the way that Appalachians inside of the region perceive themselves. I learned a lot about the narrative paradigm, both in my theater studies and also in my communications studies that I did while I was here. And, as it relates to funding for and in Appalachia, some outside folks may not be as primed to feel as if there would be a large return on investment for funding in Appalachia. So part of the function of this narrative change work as it relates to the scope of outside looking in is to change perceptions of place to ensure that there is more active and deeper investment in the region, because as a whole, Appalachia does have less capital percolating in our communities compared to other parts of the country. We just wrapped up a report, actually, State of Funding in Appalachia, where we centered that pretty loud and clear. I'll share that with you for the show notes as well.
Oh, please, yes.
Yeah.
Because I had seen it when it went up on LinkedIn. I was like, wow, this is really interesting information. And students who are already primed to be looking at that, or who are really just starting to get into either their personal Appalachian identity or the identity of Appalachian people, would see that as a very beneficial tool while navigating a perspective change.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it also plays into like that history of place and the history of extraction in the region has all led to the current moment that we're in. I would say that that State of Funding in Appalachia, that would be helpful for any, faculty, staff, or students at any institution of higher education in the region to check out. Any business students, I think it would be really pertinent, particularly if you want to one day open a business here or go into working in a business that's based in the region. I think it's useful information for any and everybody. So, and it's looking particularly at private funding, so not necessarily federal capital that's coming in, but private philanthropy, community foundation funding.
Yes, we'll have to make sure we link that because it's very important and insightful information. You are using your community organization background, but you're also diving deep into the funding part. And I can only imagine getting the information, tracking it, and making sure that it is going in ways to help us keep moving forward is a very interesting role to have at this point in Appalachia's history.
Yeah. I mean, I think my community organizing background helps a lot because, like I said, I'm from here. I was born and raised in the coal camps of East Kentucky. I live very close by in the coal fields of Southwest Virginia now, so I have those cultural competencies. I know how to organize in community. I know, I have an idea or, again, a competency around what tactics work in our communities, and I'm able to then, transfer that knowledge and that skill base around organizing into working with funders. Many of our funders, particularly our community foundations, are based in the region. Our communities are in communities themselves and consider themselves community members. So, it's just a lot of times it feels like you're just going into spaces because we are remote. So most of the work that we do is virtually on Zoom, et cetera. But it feels like we're just going in and talking with our people and just co-conspirating, that's a strong word, but just thinking together about how to make Appalachia a more sustainable, more comfortable place to live where people who want to stay can. So, yeah.
Well, I definitely think that the background you have in community building is playing a huge role in what you're doing right now. Could you tell us a little bit about maybe what sparked that initial interest in community building or just being in the community as a whole?
So, when I was a student here at UVA-Wise, I mentioned my background is in theater, and so I spent a lot of time in my cohort. I always say this because I think it was really, really poignant. In one of our classes, I think even my freshman year, one of the professors said, "We are not trying to get you in here to train you how to be the best actor in the world. We want you all to know how to be good community members." And that has always stuck with me. And so the lessons I learned there, whether it be, the lessons I learned in that cohort, whether it be around ensemble dynamics, which is how to be in a team or how to be in community with other people, or knowledge sharing or labor sharing and equitable labor sharing, all of that stuff. I think that played a really big role. And then I was already really working through while I was a student here, like I mentioned earlier, the way that I internalize my own identity as an Appalachian, as a Black woman, right? And then my junior year, I took a Appalachian literature course. And I think it changed the trajectory of my entire life because suddenly I was able to reconcile all of that stuff. And in doing so, I was also learning so much about the history of my home place, as well as like the truth of the heritage and the nuance therein, all of the context that had led to like the socio-political realities of today, all of that stuff. And I really carried that with me. Right after graduating, I got a job working in business processing outsourcing, which is a call center. Moved up there, was working in like administration, and I was there for 5 years. Then I got a call just because of some people that I had known and organized with outside of like a benefits job capacity, just in the community. I found out about an opportunity to be an on-staff community organizer with a small organization, Southern Appalachian Mountain Stewards, shout out, in Big Stone Gap. Transitioned into that. And then after spending some time figuring out how we could ensure that that organization could continue to proliferate and grow and also offer opportunities to all of the members who were really deeply engaged and make sure that those opportunities were like equitable, I moved into Appalachia Funders Network. So, and that just kind of, it by happenstance, but I think that I was already thinking a lot about, my place in this region, the work that I wanted to do in this region. And, they say that, like, life may be a winding road, but when you get to your destination and you look back, you realize that everything that's happened along the way was leading you to the point that you are at now. And it very much feels that way, right? And I just feel like I'm in a really great organization I'm very happy to work for. Feel very lucky and privileged to work for the organization I work for doing the work that I do.
Like, you were able to take a lot of the learnings that you got through the theater program, that community-based teamwork, the place-based knowledge that you obtained, and really in your network too, because you knew someone who reached out to you, and they really wove together, you said, for that roadmap for you.
For sure. And the person that I was in network with that reached out to me, I met them at UVA Wise. I think that's the importance of putting your best foot forward every single day, and always like going for it and always trying to at least show up as fully as yourself as you can, and as authentically as yourself as you can, because people remember that, and when they're looking to fill a role, they may just reach out to you.
100%. And it's kind of going a little bit back to your theater degree, and then also I noticed that you had gotten a degree more in organizational leadership.
I did.
Do you believe that your educational background that you had with theater really played in well to that further, like that more advanced degree that you received?
Listen, the girls have got to know, okay, that a theater degree can be so rich because the type of things that you are learning, particularly at UVA Wise, where it's a liberal arts education, so you're learning about like multiple disciplines, and you're taking all of these things you're learning and you're synthesizing it into like this wealth of just knowing that you can take into the real world and into your career. So at UVA Wise, getting a theater degree meant that you were taking classes honestly on like management. Yes, it was stage management, but stage managers go hard, and you are learning how to like manage multiple aspects of a production or a business plan. You can use those words interchangeably. You could be doing that for all 4 years that you're in undergrad at this institution, because it is a liberal arts institution in education. You are very actively working on super dynamic teams, large ensemble casts, small ensemble casts, multiple shows a semester at a time, and you're learning how not only to manage yourself, but also how to manage relationships with other people, how to manage time together, how to hold one another accountable. There's just a lot that I learned while at UVA Wise that I was able to take into, my master's education. At the time, I was working at that business process outsourcer at the call center, and the opportunity was that if you had been working there for a set amount of time, they entered into a partnership with Arizona State University. And so I decided that because it was going to be really cost efficient, that I was going to go ahead and get my master's degree while I was employed there. And I did the management just because I was kind of working in that role in the job that I was in at that time. But I think that it's been like a really useful degree to have, the background I was able to bring into that learning experience, but then also how I'm able to reconcile everything I've learned in undergrad and graduate school and, pour that into the career track I'm on now.
Yeah, all your perspectives just came together in like a boiling pot.
I mean, honestly, it's like soup. I'm perpetually in soup season, but that's all right.
That's okay. We love soup season.
Yeah, I'm not even going to start talking about like potato soup. I'll stop.
For another time. Yes.
Yeah, for another conversation. Take it offline.
Oh, yes. Okay. So, but what advice would you have for students who might be interested in pursuing a pathway or a line of work similar to what you do now, and they're looking to foster that community in their respective fields?
That's a really good question. I think that truly, truly, truly goes back to the networking aspect. Also, something that I have found to be really true is after I entered the nonprofit space, particularly, and my bias and the knowledge base I have is Central Appalachian movement and the Central Appalachian nonprofit ecosystem. But once you enter that space, you would be surprised at how small it is, and so you just get to know people. So again, putting your best foot forward, always showing up as your authentic self, always also showing up like with a lot of grace, not only for yourself but for other people. Folks clue into that. Going to conferences, being open to lending a hand to people, hopping on a call, providing extra support if somebody needs it just because. But I think for me, I got into the nonprofit space and I was involved in that ecosystem, and then it kind of went from there. So it was sectoral for me.
Well, that is wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. So the last thing that I want to kind of touch on with you is, while being an expert in one specific area is wonderful, I always encourage students to stay curious. So that could be by listening to podcasts or reading books or music, theater productions, all of that good stuff. For you, is there something that has been on your radar recently that you would like to share, or maybe something that had a huge impact on you and something that caused you to be really curious in a certain topic that you'd like to share with the students?
I feel like I talk about this all the time. But, I had mentioned that when I was at UVA-Wise, I took like an Appalachian literature course, and it changed my trajectory just because, I'm an Appalachian that didn't know a lot about Appalachian history, and we learned quite a bit of Appalachian history, at least the broad strokes in that class. I always, always, always recommend Storming Heaven by Denise Giardina, which tells a dramatized telling of the events leading up to the Battle of Blair Mountain through the perspective of several characters, and it follows them across their lifetime. So some of them are very small children or not even born when the book opens, and then it shares about the influx of industrialization into the region, what that looked like, and then travels about 25, 30 years into the climax of the book, which is the Battle of Blair Mountain, which was the largest labor uprising in United States history. And really for Appalachia, Appalachia was in a lot of ways like the central point that kicked off the labor movement across the entire country. Big stuff, big deal. Oh, yes. Also, we're recording this in August. The Battle of Blair Mountain took place in August, so maybe it is very fitting and timely that I'm sharing this. But for me, I learned a lot about myself and my positionality in time and place by reading that, and I think that it really set me on the path that I'm on now. So I recommend that book to everybody, especially if you are an Appalachian who wants to learn more about your history, or if you are a student who is not from the region who may be could be trying to get the region in this place to make sense. I think that book does a lot of sense making.
Oh, well, that is a wonderful recommendation. Thank you. I'll make sure it's in our show notes.
Yes.
And then if students wanted to connect with you, let them know where the best place is. Of course, I'm going to put it in the show notes, but I just want to make sure they hear it straight from you where the best place to connect would be.
Okay. Well, if you want my professional plugs, you can find me on LinkedIn at Jess Mullins Fullen. It's my name. And then you can also reach me at my email, jess@appalachiafunders.org, and I will share that with you, Chelsea, so you can put it in the show notes should you want to. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like to share before we sign off?
Long live Appalachia, long live Appalachians. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
That's about it.
Well, thank you all again for joining another episode of Just Off College Avenue. Please stay tuned. Not next week, but the week after, we'll be back with another episode. Thank you so much. Bye.